Welcome to the C60 Show, where we show you how to optimize your health with Carbon 60.
Hi, I'm Ken, a research scientist and founder of C60 Purple Power, and I'm here to explain the science of C60 and show you how it works at the cellular level to give you back control over your own health.
And I'm Sierra. I'm a mom, and I've been on the health and wellness path for over 2 decades now. Have you ever found yourself feeling chipper in one moment and depressed in the next, or agitated for no reason? You might be experiencing mood swings. In this video, we'll go over some common contributing factors that might be causing these mood swings, and we're going to share 5 ways Carbon 60 can help you stabilize your mood and get off the emotional roller coaster.
Yes, we're live today, so feel free to share your comments shall we get going now?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's dive in. But first, let's give them our disclaimer, shall we?
Yes, we do. All opinions expressed on our show today are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice. Please seek advice from your doctor or other qualified healthcare practitioner. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Individual results may vary.
So how are you guys feeling today? Are you feeling balanced? Because, when our bodies are balanced, so are our emotions and our mind. But when we're out of whack, so is our mind and emotions. I mean, it's all connected, right? The body, mind, spirit, all of it. So today we're going to talk about those. Let's talk about those factors really quick, because we want to see what is causing these emotional fluctuations. It's very interesting to note that the first one we have on our list today is inflammation. It is a recurring culprit in all of our shows, if you've noticed. It really causes a lot of problems.
Yes, and scientific studies have found that mood disorders like depression and others are negative thoughts are directly associated with inflammation. And they did a study where people would record their negative thoughts or their thoughts at the moment, and they also tested for inflammation markers like C-reactive protein, and they found a correlation between people's negative thoughts and their inflammation levels. Higher inflammation, higher negative thoughts. So a lot of people's bad feelings just come from the inflammation that they do.
And the second biggest cause is illness or injury. A lot of these illnesses that really affect mood are also inflammatory. So it makes perfect sense, like MS, autoimmune conditions like thyroid disorder, and then we have Parkinson's and also diabetes. And of course, the famous changes of hormones. And guess what, guys? This does not just affect the ladies, okay? This is also, I don't know if you heard of andropause, but men also get kind of the menopause version, but for men. And, as we age, the decline in hormone production happens. And so you do get some mood swings.
Yes, and even in men, testosterone peaks in the morning and then drops off as, the day goes on till the evening. So that's, they may be happy in the morning, but grumpy,
a little grumpy
come evening time. And that isn't just because of the job.
All right. Number 4, brain function. Obviously, again, the brain is definitely going to relate directly to how your mood is, obviously. So if your brain is if you're having cognitive decline, with age, for instance, or if you have learning disabilities, those come with a host of different emotional things, and it makes it harder to control impulses. I know that people with ADHD can have trouble with that.
And some with people with dementia. Some of those blocks that used to keep things functioning, they're just gone, and they get much higher mood swings and can act in unusual ways.
Hence grumpy old men?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then the other one is liver function. We did a show on this recently. And one thing that we mentioned is that, if you have a overburdened liver, what can happen is it can make you angry. It can make you really moody. In fact, I've got a story from someone that is a hydrotherapist that I know. She was saying that this vet would come in and get these liver flushes. He would do these liver flushes, and around after like the fourth time of doing this liver flush, he just transformed. He changed from a person that used to yell at his kids and get all upset over nothing to someone that was just super calm, didn't get agitated, tolerated things really well. I mean, that is amazing that can affect your mood so much.
Oh yeah, when you have a well-functioning liver, because one of the things is the liver does is it breaks down hormones. So, because your hormones, they go out and then after a certain amount of time, they need to be broken down. Well, if you don't do that, you can end up with things like estrogen dominance because those hormones aren't being cleared out by your liver, which is really, really important. And also, yes, the sluggish and fatty livers like that too.
Because the fatty liver can't filter toxins effectively. And so when toxins build up, man, that really does affect your mood. And also bad bacteria releases toxins. So we'll talk about that as well. Number 6 is mitochondrial issues. Now we're getting a little sciencey here, but it's kind of a hot topic. So tell us about the mitochondria, Ken.
Well, if you're looking at the picture, the mitochondria, those little red objects in the cell, and they're the energy powerhouses they're kind of like a symbiotic organelle. They used to be bacteria, but in eukaryotic cells, they've come together as one, and they produce all the ATP. Pretty much 90+% of all the energy in the cell is produced by the mitochondria. And they also produce, most of the antioxidant radicals that the cell makes.
I just thought of a fun analogy, okay?
Yeah.
So you know how Superman, he's a superhero, right? Well, the mitochondria are like little superheroes in your cells. But guess what? Kryptonite is inflammation and oxidative stress.
Yes.
So talk about
that. And that's the biggest one. And as we age, especially, the antioxidants that the larger cell provides the mitochondria go down, like superoxygen dismutase. And so that means that the mitochondria, because they're self-regulating little organelles, if they don't have enough antioxidants, they can only run up to the level that they got antioxidants and no more, because they'll just destroy themselves. And so that means that your cells aren't producing ATP. But there's a lot of other things that you can't produce, like pregnenolone, which is a precursor molecule to all the hormones. And in fact, and depending on what cell type the mitochondria is in, like it could be in your liver, and there's a setup, because of the mitochondria, there's like 3,000 genes that run mitochondria, and only 37 are found in the mitochondria. So they turn on and off. Like if you're in the mitochondria in the liver, they're going to produce a certain set of enzymes and stuff that it wouldn't be produced, let's say it was in the spleen. So when you have a malfunctioning mitochondria, you have huge problems.
Huge problems.
And there's 2 types of mitochondria disease, and that's one that's kind of like a genetic one, and that usually affects children. And it's pretty bad, and because there's genes wrong in the mitochondria and they just can't function correctly. But there's a lot of others, up to like 3,000 or more, what they call mitochondria disorders, and that happens with older people. And that's basically, as you get older, your mitochondria aren't functioning correctly, they're not reproducing, because different cells have different levels of mitochondria. Your muscle cells could have hundreds of mitochondria, where your fat cells might only have a dozen. And then in between, and so if you don't have enough, if they're not, and they have to reproduce themselves and repair themselves, and so if that process doesn't go on, then you can have real problems. And there's so many different functions and so many different ways. That's why they got like 3,000 mitochondria malfunction disorders.
And this is really hard to diagnose. It's not something that usually gets diagnosed. So it's something that you can look at, but it's also hard to treat. I know that the normal medical allopathic medicine doesn't really.
Yeah, there really is very little treatment or help for mitochondria. There's a few diseases where you can take like some B6 vitamins and other things, niacin and things like that can help to a certain extent. But for most of it, the ones especially that happen as you age, there really isn't much you can do.
Now, we are going to show you a hack. If you're aging, your mitochondria need a little help. So we are going to share a hack later. So stick around to the end for that. But let's move on to number 7, and that is diet. And, I'm a huge proponent of healthy food is so important. And we talk about it again and again. It really is the basis and the foundation of healing your body. And you want to talk about balance, you've got to think about balancing a lot of different things in your diet. You talk, balanced diet is important. We hear that all the time. But let's give you a few of the top most important things. Number 1 is avoid inflammatory oils. like seed oils, canola oil. You want to stick with the omega-3 rich oils or high oleic oils like olive oil, avocado oil, MCT coconut. Those are really, really good fats. And then you also want to stay away from additives, preservatives, eat a whole foods organic diet as much as possible, and just stay away from the middle of the grocery store. Try to shop the perimeter, for the vegetables and the produce and the meats. And also another thing that's really important is we talk about inflammation and how this really is the key to unlocking a better mood, right? Is to reducing that inflammation. And so you want to stay away from inflammatory foods, and you want to stay away from foods that you're sensitive to, because they are going to cause inflammation. Even if it's a healthy food, maybe potatoes are inflammatory for you, or dairy or gluten, then you want to cut those out, and you can do an elimination diet to find out which ones those are. So that's obviously huge. And guess what you can do? You can actually keep a journal. And my teacher, I'm studying to be a functional medicine nutritionist, and my teacher shows it, she calls it the food mood poop journal. So you actually write down everything you eat, and then there's a column for like the mood. If you suddenly feel depressed or you suddenly feel tired and fatigued, or you're getting any kind of symptoms, you put that in the mood column. And of course, if you want to look at the Bristol chart, you can talk about your poop there too. But it's really, really important to track these things if you're experiencing symptoms of inflammation, so that you can get down to the root cause. So I think that's enough about diet, but I could go on and on about that.
Yeah, and there's things like, a lot of people are malnourished. Even though you're eating a diet, you're still malnourished because you can't absorb, either you're eating really bad junk food, or you can't absorb the food that you're taking in because you have gut issues. And so, but then the gut issues are usually associated with like the food that you've been eating. So all of those kind of work together. So
yes, digestion is really, really important.
Yeah, so
because it's really oftentimes not what you eat, it's what your body does with what you eat.
I think Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine."
Absolutely.
Oh, and there we have another is sleep deprived. Well, that happens to a lot of people, especially. For one thing is, how do you want to do better on that? Stick to a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing too much screen time late at night, one of the things is you get all that blue light off your screens. That tells some of the neurons in your eye, or light cells in your eye, saying, "Oh, it's the middle of the day, lots of blue light." So when you turn the computer off, you can't get to sleep because your pineal gland thinks it's still the middle of the day. So that's like, we always talked about having like blue blocker glasses. But the key thing is to have a schedule. You kind of stop the screen time or the television or the phone, because they all give you lots of blue light before you do that. And also, there's the thing of caffeine. And that'll, if you take too much, if I take caffeine after 12 o'clock, I'm going to be staying up. That's just kind of, I'm pretty sensitive to it. And sometimes it's not just the caffeine, it's the aflatoxins in the caffeine. Mm-hmm. Those are ones that give you the edgy. When you drink coffee, you get edgy, that's the aflatoxins. And of course, then there's also alcohol. You can drink alcohol and it can like knock you out. What happens, your body bounces back, and about 3 a.m, you're going to wake up and can't go back to sleep again. So alcohol really doesn't put people to sleep. So
as I take a sip of my coffee.
Yes. Well, anyway, it's before 12, so it's okay.
Hey, I only use it when I absolutely need it. So we wanted to be here today, present for you all. So here we go. But yeah, it is really important. Again, it's back to that balance. When we overcorrect, if we're feeling tired and we overcorrect, then we have to like correct again to like calm down later. And so it can just be a vicious cycle. But yeah, you've got to prioritize your sleep. If it means giving up a social thing or going home a little early, just think about it. And also on the weekends, a lot of times people will party a little harder, or they'll stay up later, and they'll change the rhythm of their sleep schedule. That's really hard on the body. And really, you want to be in bed and sleeping by 11 at the latest, just for optimal health and optimal liver function and things like that. If that's what you're really committed to, really aim to be in bed maybe by 10 and sleeping by 11, mm-hmm. and let yourself wake up naturally.
Yeah, because you get older, you need a little bit more sleep, and so you have to go back and sleep like you had the kids sleep.
Now, there's other things that can cause sleep problems, which we've talked about before, and I think with the Beat Fatigue show we did a couple weeks ago. But if you have a nutrient deficiency of some sort, You might want to check your magnesium levels. That can really help with sleeping. And then you can also time you can time what supplements you take in the morning versus the night. I used to take my fish oil every morning, and I would wonder why I would get kind of tired because it slows your brain down a little bit. But now I take it at night along with magnesium because it really, I mean, like as soon as I take it, within 15 minutes, I'm ready to go to sleep. So.
Yeah, so those multivitamins, especially ones with a lot of B in them, take those in the morning.
All right. Number 9 is allergies. Well, of course, we know allergies cause inflammation and can make you very uncomfortable, and it can be tough to sleep when you have allergies.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
And we are going to talk a little bit about how you can overcome those.
And of course, now there's medications. Well, obviously, there's so many different types of medications, and they can get, you could just, antidepressants. And, antidepressants, they may take down the lows, but they also take off the highs. So they're just kind of like numbing. You're just numbed out, zombified, and you're not really experiencing life anymore. So
you're not feeling the joy and the love and all that as much to the extent that you might have, even though you're not having the lowest lows anymore.
And then when you have multiple medicines at the same time, you get all of those interactions. And quite frankly, you're doing 4 or 5 medicines at a time. It's virtually impossible to figure out what sort of side effects, because one causes other side effects, and then you take another medicine to fix that side effect. But let's not go down that road.
Unfortunately, a lot of doctors will prescribe you these medications when really they need to, and you need to back it up and look at the source of the problem. If you can tackle that, and that's what we try to do here on the show, is we talk about, like, imagine the symptoms or the branches of a tree. We're talking about fixing the soil. And so the source of the problem, well, if the source of the problem of your depression is inflammation, well, that's the good news, is that you can fix that with dietary and lifestyle changes, and also with C60, which we'll talk about soon. But yeah, we've got to back it up and see if we can overcome these things, because again, that balance is so important, physically, mentally, everything. And it takes time to get that, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, and then there's other things like steroid use. A lot of people, in the athletic things, get the roid rage. That's really bad. And all of these drugs, they got to be processed out by your liver. And so they really are pounding on your liver. And if you're just overloading it with all these other toxins, your other toxins are going to build up in your body. And we already talked about how, toxins can cause that. So
yeah, we also talked about, we actually did a show on liver function, and there's definitely some signs and symptoms if you're wondering if you have an overburdened liver. If you are taking lots of medications, most likely you are, and you might want to do a liver flush once a year, and then also just do some extra things to support your liver, which we talk about in the show, and then we'll probably talk about today as well. Let's move on.
And of course, substance abuse, that goes without saying. If people don't get their fix, junkies or even coffee drinkers don't get their fix, they get a little agitated and out of control. And obviously, then when they take it, then they get a euphoric, so you're going those swings. And yeah, we could go on and on about substance abuse, but yeah, that's just that could be a real problem. And if you got a substance use problem, well, you're going to have mood swings.
Yeah, and again, it's because the substance will take you to an extreme high, right? But what goes up must come down. So it's also going to leave you for extreme low, and then eventually you're going to need more and more just to get the same effect. And if you don't get your fix, oh man, watch out. That will definitely cause moodiness, right? And maybe even some behavior that is illegal.
Yes.
So let's move on to another topic that I'd like to talk about, which is stress. Stress is a huge culprit. Well, stress causes inflammation. We know that. So those are connected. But also stress can be connected to a host of problems, inflammatory conditions like autoimmune conditions. So really, again, balancing your work-life balance is so important. Prioritizing your health, taking time each day to maybe go on a walk, spend some time with family. Like, you've got to balance your life enough so that you can breathe and you can take breaks and you can manage the stress. And there's so many ways you can do it. But number one, you got to start here with your brain, with the stinking thinking. You got to change your mind, your self-talk. A lot of people, they just have negative self-talk. And unfortunately, that can be very depressing. It can alter your mood. It can make you angry. It can make you upset. So you got to start there, really. But then also you can do some deep breathing, some meditation, some yoga, Affirmations, which are amazing. If you're hearing yourself doing that negative talk, you can turn right around, turn those fears into faith talk, into affirmations, and start speaking life into your world, into your existence. It works. You guys should try it. We should do a whole show on that.
Yes, we probably should do a show on that. And there's other things like toxic relationships, and that can be at your work, that can be in your house, and that can be probably the worst one is your TV. You know, you watch that news at night and it gets you all upset because they show all, you know, the if it leads, it bleeds, or it bleeds, it leads. So, you know, that's so, you know, sometimes just turning off all that television can help a lot too, to bring like balance to your life.
And you want to know a little secret? We do an affirmation every time right before we do this show. And basically our affirmation is that we just basically, like, we're reminding ourselves, setting the intention why we're here, and it is to help you guys and to help people to discover a way to go back to nature, go back to basics, go back to the source root causes of their problems so that they can heal. So that is such a huge mission, and that's the mission that we're on. Let's see, I think we've got one more. Number 13 is mental health issues.
Yeah, I mean, you could have manic depressive, you could have bipolar, I guess that's the same thing, borderline personality. There's all kinds of things. Well, you got depression, which is inflammation linked, and they're all pretty much inflammation linked. And there's just so many others. And obviously, if you've got a problem in the brain functioning, then you're, you know, having to have a mood problem. It just kind of goes together. So,
and they are exacerbated by inflammation, like you said, by foods with additives and colors and things like that, and also sugar. You didn't mention sugar, but they actually did studies with mice, and they gave them Coca-Cola, and they became extremely aggressive and started biting each other. And so behavioral issues can definitely be related to food.
Yes.
So, in summary, balance is possible, even if your life is a little crazy. Bringing the body and emotions into balance can be done, but it involves making healthy lifestyle choices consistently and doing things daily to ensure proper rest, nutrition, exercise, stress management, and more. It takes effort, but it's the small effort done daily that really, really works, right? So now we get to the hack, which is C60. Now, I know there might be some new people here today, and you might not know what C60 is. It's short for carbon 60. Ken, can you explain a little bit about it for us?
Sure. C60 is a carbon molecule. Well, it's a carbon molecule, 60 carbon atoms shaped like a little tiny soccer ball. And it's several hundred times more powerful than conventional antioxidants. And kind of it's unique in how it works is usually molecule will release an electron to become a positive charge, because C60 likes to have a positive charge. Well, C60 pulls hydrogen ions out of the environment, stores it inside of its cage-like structure here. And then oxidative radicals usually have a free electron, so they're negatively charged, and then they'll stick to the C60. The C60 will take that electron and transfer it to one of the hydrogen ions, and of course the oxidative radical is neutralized, sometimes to oxygen, sometimes to water, or some other non-reactive substance, and then the C60 can reset itself. So that's kind of what its real power is, its ability to reset itself again and again and again.
Right. So to put that into layman's terms, basically what he's saying is that this is a really powerful antioxidant. In fact, it's several hundred times more powerful than conventional antioxidants like vitamin C. And it can reset itself, like you said, and it doesn't interfere with any of the signaling processes of the body. If you took as much vitamin C you would need to get the same effect, it would actually be lethal.
Yes, some of them, would be extremely high, because it is very selective. It pretty much, it's an SOD mimicker, which we'll talk about some more as we get a little deeper into the biochemistry.
Yeah, and SOD basically is an antioxidant that your body makes.
Yeah, superoxide dismutase, and it's key for proper functioning of your mitochondria.
And as you age, it declines. So what C60 can do is replace that, which is helpful. All right, well, let's talk about, now we want to know how C60 can help with the mood swings, right? So let's look at this infographic here to summarize it. We'll go through these one at a time. Number one, it supports inflammatory response, which is, it does that by neutralizing free radicals.
Yes, and so free radicals are what causes inflammation. They're usually hydroxyl radicals or superoxygen, and C60 neutralizes those oxidative radicals, and then you don't get the whole inflammatory response. which is really good. And also, part of it is also related to mood. There's the dopamine suppression. And there's two types of inflammation. There's like acute, which is like you twist your ankle, right? And then there's the chronic, which is the problem. Like acute, one of the things is you've got an inflammation, the inflammation response, you twisted your ankle, it swells up. And so you kind of want to sit there to let it heal. Well, your body also does something. It also has biochemical pathways that it suppresses dopamine. And dopamine is sort of like the motivation molecule, the happy molecule that gets you out of the bed into life every day. And so when you're not getting your dopamine, you just have like no motivation and you just want to lie there. And that's what the body wants you to do so that your ankle can heal. Now that becomes a problem when you have chronic inflammation. Let's say it's in your joints, or there's lots of other places you can have chronic inflammation. In that case, the same dopamine suppression occurs. And then you can't get, you don't have dopamine. And that's when C60 goes in there. C60 can completely replace things like SOD and other problems where there's an inflammation. And then once the oxidative radicals go away, the inflammation goes away, and then your dopamine levels return to normal. That's one things people say. I just, I was taking C60, my energy levels came back. And then I got motivated, to go do old hobbies or clean the house. That's when we always hear a lot. I finally got motivated and did, clean the house all day.
Now you'll hear us mention this one a lot because inflammation really affects a lot of things. It affects our immune function. It affects our different organs, our eyes, our vision. It affects a lot of things. So usually one of the first things we mentioned that C60 will help with is inflammation, and how that affects these various conditions can be very huge.
Yeah, like all the hardening of the arteries and all that. It's all heart disease. That's all based on inflammation.
And we went into supports energy and motivation.
Well, that's one of the things that your mitochondria, back again to mitochondria function. As you age, a lot of our antioxidants that the larger cell provides the mitochondria go down. And so the mitochondria can't function as much.
So the production actually declines.
Yeah, exactly. You don't make ATP, which is the energy molecule. So your energy production in your cells go down, and obviously throughout your body, then your just energy levels are lower. Well, when C60 goes in there, it completely replaces the missing SOD, superoxide dismutase, which means now your mitochondria can crank up back to the way they used to be. And so once you get your ATP in there, then now all your body cellular chemistry can start working again. And especially after a month or two of that, then your body's working a whole lot more productive than it did before.
And that's exactly why going into promotes balanced hormones here. That's exactly how it does that with the hormones, because mitochondria produce pregnenolone, and that's a precursor to all the hormones. So if you don't have enough pregnenolone, then you're not going to make enough of the hormones that you really need.
Yeah, and it's not like hormone replacement therapy where they give you one hormone.
Right.
So like in the pineal gland, you're going to produce more melatonin. In the pituitary hypothalamus complex, you'll produce more human growth hormone and a whole bunch of other master hormones, which also regulate things like T3 and T4 in your thyroid. And in your adrenal glands, the androgens, the mineralocorticoids, the glucocorticoids, and things like cortisol, all of those, all of that can go up. So you have like a balanced thing, because C60 doesn't cure anything. What it does, it lifts the oxidative burden the cells are under, and now the cells can operate the way they're supposed to, and then health returns.
Now, if you're under a high stress all the time, then you really want to watch your hormone levels, because there's a thing called the pregnenolone steal, where the precursor molecule, the pregnenolone, will go to all the stress hormones, creating all the stress hormone, and then you don't have enough left for the other hormones.
Yeah, like androgens. And so that's why if you're stressed, you don't feel like,
yeah,
having relationships, because all your pregnenolone was used up producing cortisol, and you don't have enough for everything else. So, and that can cause a lot of things like, wrong blood pressure problems because your blood's too thick or too thin, or however. There's just so many things.
Now, C60 also supports brain function, which we actually recently just did a show about that. But one thing about the research, that's one of the first studies that found that C60 actually prevented cognitive decline in test animals and had some form of protection on the neurons.
Yeah, because, your brain is only like 2% of your body weight, but it uses 20% of the energy. So when your mitochondria and other cellular functions in your brain aren't working, you're going to have real problems. And
so the first thing that shuts down is your brain.
Yeah, exactly.
You're tired. It makes perfect sense.
And so that's really important.
All right. And then it also supports liver function so that it can get those toxins out of your body. That will help your mood.
Yes, because a lot of those toxins, as toxins break down, the toxins themselves don't do the damage. The toxins, as they break down, produce oxidative radicals, and then those oxidative radicals do the damage. So if the C60 is there and neutralizes those oxidative radicals before they do damage, that means that your body can process those toxins and get them out much more efficiently than if you didn't have C60.
Let's share a testimonial, shall we? Mark says, I'm a 68-year-old male and began taking C60 Purple Power about 1 year ago. I have been diagnosed with MS, chronic pain syndrome, anxiety, chronic fatigue, and depression. During the past year of taking C60, I have noticed the anger of my pain is diminished, my sensitivity to heat has lessened, my anxiety and depression is nowhere near what I had been going through, my energy level is increased, and the frequency and intensity of my MS episodes has lessened. That's amazing.
Yes, that is a very good testimonial. And yeah, I mean, the older you are, pretty much the more C60 can just do amazing things for you.
And if you have a story about C60, please do share. The community would like to know. You can leave us a voicemail, or you can also you can go to our website and submit a testimonial there at c60purplepower.com /testimonial. Or you can call and leave a voicemail at 1-800-367-8209.
Well,
we want to make sure we mention the coupon code today. If you use the code, the C60 Show, you do get 15% off your entire order at c60purplepower.com. But now it's time for live questions. Yay, my favorite part of the show.
Okay, well, what do we have today?
I don't know, actually. Let's start with an FAQ, shall we? How about how much C60 do you need to take daily to get all these beautiful benefits?
Well, that's there's a couple of things that go with that. One is body size, and one is age. And so let's say you're 140, 150 pounds in your 30s, a teaspoon, we found from many customers' experiences, they have feedback, a teaspoon a day is pretty good, because C60 takes a while to process through your body. So every day that you use it, it builds up concentrations. And so after a certain X number of days, you're going to hit that concentration. So somewhere between 4 and 10 days, it's a debate, because stays in different organs for different times. One of the places it likes to hang out on the way out of the body is in the liver, which is exactly where it needs to be to protect against oxidative radicals.
I think the key really is the consistency. I take a teaspoon every day. And, that helps a lot because my body gets used to it. So I'm not getting too much energy and I'm not, everything's stable. So you'll find out what works well for you. And it tends to relate to your energy level and your mental focus. So if you end up taking too much, you might have trouble sleeping because your mind is so active and everything's like revved up. So you'll find your balance. I find that for me, my age and my size, 1 teaspoon works just fine.
Yeah, as we get older, the antioxidants that our body used to make aren't there, so you need more. So if you were like a person 150 pounds and you're in your 60s or 70s, a tablespoon would more likely be appropriate.
And people do give C60 to their pets. We will talk a little bit about that because I know we have a question around the dosage. But you can find all this information at c60purplepower.com /FAQs. There's a lot of information there. And then also, if you're interested in looking at the research studies, /research is where you can find those. So, see, I keep talking and then I forget to read the questions. Let's see. Oh, we have a comment from Instagram. Carla says, we can't thank you enough for C60 Purple Power. My husband, Maury, is 88 years young. He is strong and healthier today than he was last year. We are lifting weights and walking farther than we walked last year. I'm even swimming a couple miles a day.
Well, that's good.
That's great. Thanks for chiming in, Carla. A question on Instagram from Jade. Is C60 okay to take while doing red light therapy treatments? Does it protect against EMF radiation?
Well, C60 would be fine when you're doing red light therapy in therapy, but it doesn't. C60 protects against the oxidative radicals produced by radiation. Radiation produces a lot of hydroxyl radicals. C60 can neutralize those back to water very efficiently and reset itself. So that's kind of how I got involved in it, if you've listened to other shows. So yeah, it wouldn't be a problem at all and wouldn't interfere at all with it.
But EMF radiation, I think you're referring to what you get from cell phone
Oh.
towers and devices, all the smart devices. And we've done a show all about how C60 can help protect against radiation. And actually, that's how Ken discovered C60.
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of that electromagnetic radiation, the lower level, the thermal stuff like microwaves, which is 5G, is what they do is they'll jam open the calcium gated channels in your cells. And so it'll let too much calcium into your cells, which generates superoxide radicals that can form nitrogen oxides and make peroxynitrates. And C60 can neutralize those before they go out and cause damage. So yeah, C60 definitely can help in multitudes of ways when dealing with the oxidative radicals produced by radiation.
Of course, the best way is just to avoid that, yes, but it's not really possible.
Yeah, yes.
With a lot of things. Let's see, we have a question from Facebook from Sarah. I am taking a strictly holistic path and added C60 to my routine last week. I am sensitive to supplements and plant medicine, but I noticed a change in energy and balance immediately. I cannot imagine it was purely placebo effect because I had no expectations for fast results, never considered that my balance would improve. Is it typical to experience any results at all this quickly? My balance improved was noticed by several others who didn't know I started a new supplement. Thanks. Super excited about your products.
Oh, yes, that's really common because one of the things you'll first get in there, it'll go in, it'll get in the mitochondria, and now you're starting to do your ATP production. And you're also preventing oxidative damage inside your neurons, and because your neurons are the most sensitive things. And so once that starts, and we can actually do this, we have aldehyde tests, which they're urine-based, and you can check for the actual aldehydes or a measure of oxidative stress that your body's under. And people that take C60, you can take it before and you see what your oxidative stress are, and then you can take it afterwards. And the tests are like $20. So it's, and you can actually see before and after effects of taking C60 with aldehyde tests, which are commonly available in the market.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you for sharing that, by the way, Sarah. Jill says, and this is from YouTube, good afternoon. Just started taking C60 a few days ago. I have a long list of items. I hope it helps, including mood, but we'll see how the purple power works its magic and how my body responds.
Yeah, once the hormone levels rise up too, and they're balanced, because the body will, you lift the oxidative burden. C60 lifts the oxidative burden, then the cells can operate the way they're supposed to be, and in many cases, the way they used to operate, 10 to 20 years before, when your antioxidant levels were much higher.
Bree says from YouTube, I had levels checked at about 6 months in, and the nurse told me that she had never seen such good levels in someone my age, ever. I take about a teaspoon a day, sometimes 2. I'm curious to know, Breeze, how old you are and what levels you were checking, like just your metabolic panel, like what were you checking?
Yeah, that would be great to go. And one of the things about C60, it has no toxicity at any level. They gave C60 to rats, which was about 1 gram per kilogram, which is 10,000 times what a person might be taking, even if they pushed it. And there were no negative effects. And that's because C60 doesn't interfere in the signaling molecules. It goes after some really nasty oxidative radicals like superoxygen, the hydroxyl radical, peroxynitrate, but it doesn't interfere with the signaling molecules, which are based on sulfur, iron, and zinc. So that's why, some other antioxidants, like if you took vitamin D or vitamin E at 10,000 times the normal level, that probably would be fatal to you. But C60, has no effect at all, other than they were just really healthy rats.
Actually, that was like one of the first studies they did, and they were just testing for toxicity. Then they found out, oh, wait, it doubled the lifespan of test animals.
Oh, and we did forget to mention that we were going to talk about in that first study, they actually did a study with liver for the liver health. And they gave that's the study that doubled the lifespan of test animals. But during those 5 years they were waiting, they did a couple other C60 tests. And one of them was they gave rats, one set of rats got, the control rats didn't get anything. But then the other set of rats, the test rats, got carbon tetrachloride, which is a really nasty toxic chemical that damages the liver badly. And then the other ones got carbon tetrachloride plus C60. And when they examined the rats after they sacrificed them, they found that the C60 rats really had no liver damage at all, whereas the ones that had got carbon tetrachloride without the C60, their livers were pretty much destroyed.
Wow. So it actually kind of
Yeah,
protected them from the poison.
Yeah,
in a
and
way.
carbon tetrachloride breaks down, it produces oxidative radicals, just like most toxins. And so C60 has an amazing protective effect against toxins.
So if you know you're exposed to toxins on a regular basis, C60 is something that you can use to help protect
Yes.
you. Another question from YouTube. My dog has a hard lump in his left haunch, red, hard, swollen. Can C60 help? We went to a vet, got antibiotic shots. They took blood, x-ray, biopsy. The blood and x-ray are fine. No results for biopsy yet. You know, we've seen bigger miracles.
Yes. So
right?
yeah, and a lot of this
Worth a
is
try.
yes, it's red and inflamed. That sounds like inflammation. So C60 can get in there, get rid of those oxidative radicals. The inflammation goes down, and when the inflammation goes down, that allows the body to actually get in there. The body's macrophages and other cells to get in there and actually fix the problem.
Do a little cleanup.
Yes, a lot of times inflammation will actually, or too much inflammation will actually slow down the healing process.
Yeah, you might check your dog's diet and see if your dog has any sensitivities. You can look up the common allergens for dogs and just make sure that the dog food, you might want to eliminate those common allergens for a while and see if he does better as well, because that can also exacerbate the inflammation. Let's see, another one from Jill she says, what are the most common detox symptoms from taking C60?
Well, we have two of them that I hear that sometimes if you've let's say if you had a lot of mouth metal, maybe it's in there still, maybe it's gone. I'm talking mercury fillings. The first time that you take C60, a lot of people experience get a little bit of metallic taste in their mouth.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. The first couple of days, and then it went away.
Yeah, and that's what happens is the C60 gets in there and dislodges inorganic mercury and other heavy metals, and then it prevents their redeposition because you're taking C60 in the milligrams, and these things are in the micrograms.
Deactivates.
Yeah, deactivates.
Turns them into they can't interfere. They can't react with anything.
Yeah, they'll turn them from hydroxides or inorganics to oxides, and then your body can grab those metal oxides and dump them out of it because your body has a way of getting rid of that stuff. So that's one of the first things. And then once the heavy metal burden goes way down, then you'll start seeing a lot of effects. And also same with the inflammation. You slow down the inflammation, and then the whole, you get that dopamine levels rise because you're not having those inflammation markers that signal dopamine suppression.
Check out our show on detox, because that has a lot of information about that.
Yeah, usually it's about, if you have a heavy toxic burden, it's like 4 or 5 days, and at the most, and you just drink extra water to help flush out any toxins you have, and then you're just going to start see it kick in.
Now, if you do start feeling detox symptoms, you can back off on the dosage for a few days. That's why we say if you want to ease into it. I did not ease into it. I just went straight for, I think I started at a tablespoon actually, but you can start at a 1/4 teaspoon, just if you're really concerned, and then go up to a 1/2 teaspoon and then up to a teaspoon. Ease your way into it. But if you've already been leading a really healthy lifestyle, then you can probably start with a teaspoon. You'd be okay. Let's see. Bree says, I know being on C60 was instrumental in recovering from a burst blood vessel in my stomach. That was when I had the levels tested. All good, crazy because I lost a lot of blood. That's scary.
Yep.
Jill again says, do you get the same results if you split the dose?
No, there's at some level you'll drop below. I mean, if at some level you're just taking more. You can take 10,000 times what you're taking, but at some level above that, you're not going to get any benefits. But if you drop too small,
if you split,
you mean smaller ones? Oh yeah, no, that's actually one of the best things to do.
To split it up,
because a lot of people, let's say you've lost your gallbladder or something, or you had it taken out, and and so you don't have the ability to digest oil as good. So if you take a bunch of little doses. Separated, that's a really effective way of doing it, and it actually does increase your absorption levels. In that case, yeah, that's a good technique.
All right. Christian says, could you explain the stem cell regeneration I learned about on a forum?
Okay, that's part of that. The stem cell is C60. When the C60 molecule gets in the cells in the mitochondria, if you've got a senescent cell, that's basically a cell that the telomeres are too short for it to reproduce. The C60 gets in, and senescent cells don't want to die, but they're just draining resources from your body. So it happens, C60 gets in there, the mitochondria start back up in the cell, and because they're making ATP, and then they also send these messages to the nuclear DNA. And if they don't get the right message back, the mitochondria will initiate apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. So you're going to start, it'll wipe out C60. The cells naturally will just self-terminate, and then the phagocytes come in there, and it's non-inflammatory, by the way. Apoptosis, the cell breaks up in little apoptotic bodies, the phagocytes come in there and gobble them up and clean it out. But what happens is now your organ or tissue has a lot less cells than it needs, and so it sends out messages, we need stem cells. And then that causes the body to make a whole lot more stem cells. And we've had people in their 70s, right? Will go in, they're getting stem cell treatment. They'll take out the blood type or the fat type, doesn't matter which one. And then they'll go in there and they'll have like incredible levels of stem cells, characteristic of like a 20-year-old. And we had like an 80-year-old guy. He used to have to go in and 4 or 5 times draw blood to get enough stem cells to do a treatment. Now he comes in, one blood draw, he has enough to do it. And so that's the whole thing, is because your body doesn't have enough cells. So the messages go out and make more stem cells. Those stem cells go in and replace the now missing senescent cells, and they have a full set of telomeres. So one of the things we see is the average telomere length of people increases when you're on C60 for several years.
Yeah, and then another thing that happens is that the tissues in your body start to regenerate much more quickly, much more effectively. I know as you age, like for instance, your skin cell turnover rate starts to slow down and your skin gets thinner. Well, this can help with the stem cell production, which can increase that turnover rate. And also it can help with the tissues and the various organs. For instance, my thyroid function started coming back. I've been able to reduce my thyroid medication by 2/3. So people have seen some regenerative effects of C60, and it's really not the C60. Again, it's lifting that oxidative burden so that the body can produce stem cells and hormones and everything else it needs, right? We've got some questions from the email. So I'm going to say last call for questions on YouTube. After we get through these, we'll do a few more of those, and Facebook, of course, and Instagram. Let's see. Barry wants to know, so he's on a budget and he wants to take just the amount that he needs a day, but he's saying, is it better to take 1 teaspoon daily, or 2 teaspoons every 2 days, or maybe 3 teaspoons every 3 days?
No, it'd be better to take 1 teaspoon a day. And you can even break that teaspoon into like a quarter teaspoon or quarter teaspoons and take them like in 30-minute intervals, because that would increase absorption levels.
Oh, there you go. And you can also get away with taking a 1/2 teaspoon. It will still have some good benefits for you. So if you want to make your bottle last even longer, you can do that. Kathy wants to know, how can C60 help with finger arthritis in my fingers? Well, arthritis is inflammatory.
Yes, that's right. They've actually did that with in animal studies. There's some human studies, mostly on facial creams and a few others on eyes. But in animal studies, they found, and the thing about C60, it works at the cellular level. So it's going to work the same. The difference between our cells and animal cells are virtually indistinguishable. They're pretty much the same at the cellular level. And so they did that with rabbits, and they found not only did it get rid of the inflammation caused by arthritis in the rabbits, but it actually stimulated cartilage replacement, because it stimulates stem cells. So it actually stimulated the cells that grow cartilage, and so the joint actually regrew.
So no, that's amazing.
Yes.
So it's not just preventing joint damage, it's actually regrowing. And then I also hear that the bone mineral density can also
because once your osteocytes, I think that the ones that break up bone or tear it apart, once they get C60 in, then they can operate and function the way that they're supposed to. And so we had lots of reports of bone mineral density increasing.
Sonia says, do you still recommend that C60 be taken with apples?
One of the things we talked about apples is apples produce, one of the reasons that you have roughage in your diet, fiber, right?
So important.
Is that as that fiber breaks down, it actually produces hydrogen gas. This is part of our natural process, about 11 liters a day. And then that hydrogen gas goes through your body, and your body uses it as a signaling molecule and an antioxidant. So it's another thing that a healthy gut produces to make you good. Now, one of the things about C60 just loves hydrogen. I mean, it'll store up to 6 hydrogen molecules, atoms inside of its cage-like structure, and a whole bunch will stick to it. So usually when you take, like if you were to do hydrogen gas therapy, after you stop doing it, within 11 minutes, all the hydrogen gas is out of your body. But if you have C60 in your body, it'll just coat the C60 molecules, and then the C60 molecules will use that hydrogen gas to neutralize oxidative radicals. And so that's why we recommend the apples, because they produce. There's something about the fiber in apples that produce a large amount of hydrogen gas. And so, the old doctor saying an apple a day keeps the doctor away is in fact true.
All right. Let's see. I'm not sure, actually. Hi, I'm wondering how to take C60. Can I mix it in hot coffee or tea?
Oh yeah, a lot of people do in the morning. Your hot coffee, they do the paleo coffee, which is really great because the C60 is an oil, so it's not going to do the carb stimulation. And so a lot of people put it in their coffee or tea in the morning, and that's sometimes even their smoothies.
I think MCT coconut oil is safe to heat it up to 300 degrees.
Yeah.
And C60 itself
is, it's virtually indestructible.
Yeah.
I mean, you can if you're
Now, if it's cold, if you put it in something frozen, the C60 might start to fall out of the oil, right?
Yeah. So but if you mix it up real quickly, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
It'll just disperse everywhere. So.
Okay. Let's see. We've got a few questions from Harold. Can I put a teaspoon of C60 in my bulletproof coffee in place of some of the MCT oil? Of course.
Absolutely. That's one of the things. And so you get your C60 and MCT oil. And one of the things we've talked about MCT oil, it's medium chain triglycerides. And your body takes those and turns them into ketones. And then your cells can use that as an alternative fuel source, which is really good if you have glycose processing issues.
Okay. Do I really have to eat food within an hour for better absorption, or will the butter and cream in my coffee count for that?
Oh, your butter and cream in the coffee will count for that. Okay. One of the things, just one of the reasons we sometimes have talk about people needing food with it, because if you've never actually taken an oil straight, it can go like right through you.
Sure.
But your body will adjust after a few weeks and put out the bile or whatever it is to take care of that, so you won't have that problem. But initially, if you've never done that before, it could be a problem there. So you just take the C60 with food and until your body adjusts to it. And it's not the C60, it's the oil that the C60 is in.
I always take it after I eat breakfast.
So you can, or you can take it before, depending on your body will adjust to the ability and learn how to digest oils, and it won't be a problem after a few weeks. But sometimes the initial things, it can be a problem. That's why we recommend that.
Harold also asks, can I take C60 during a water fast? I can have coffee with a small amount of butter and cream. Will that suffice?
Yeah, actually, if C60 is in a fat like MCT coconut oil, which you can definitely take in that case. So yeah, you can do that. That would work because it's in an oil and would substitute for the butter.
Okay. And number 4. Do I need to increase the daily dosage due to my age or my previous habits of smoking and drinking? If so, how much C60 would you recommend that I take? He says he's 6'3", 250 pounds. He does not tell us
77.
He does tell us his age.
Yep.
Okay.
And so I would say, you're looking at a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half. And you could probably back it off to a tablespoon after a while. But because you've got some toxins in there and a little damage, you might need a little extra C60 to get over. But you definitely up at least a tablespoon or more a day.
Okay. And he's got some more questions, but we will answer those via email, Harold.
Okay.
Carla says, hi there. Is C60 the same thing as activated charcoal?
No, C60 is not activated charcoal. C60 is a unique molecule. It's a fullerene. And the only fullerene that really has been shown to have health benefits is the Buckminster fullerene, which is the carbon-60 molecule. And it only works as dissolved as individual molecules. If you have particles of C60, sometimes you'll see C60 in water. No, those are just suspensions of particles of C60, and they have no health benefit at all. You have to have your C60 dissolved as single molecules in an oil and to make it effective.
And C60 is a fairly recently discovered molecule. I think it was 1987. And charcoal we've known about for a long time.
Yeah, activated charcoal has its health benefits, but it doesn't pass the gut barrier. It just goes right through you. And also, if you're sick or you have some problems with toxins, activated charcoal is good for you. But
for binding with toxins,
for binding.
Right?
But you never want to do that every day, because one of the other things that activated charcoal will bind with is like the necessary minerals you need for your body health. So Activated charcoal is good for like if you have an illness or fixing on something, but never take it every day because it can deplete your mineral stores.
Are there any contraindications of taking C60 and NAC together? I don't know what NAC
No,
is.
NAC is a no. There isn't any contraindications. They do two totally different things. NAC goes into the Krebs cycle. C60 neutralizes the oxidative radicals produced by the Krebs cycle. So they're kind of complementary, but they don't directly interact.
We have another question. I see you find this helps eye issues. Can you tell me if it has helped with astigmatism in eyes? And if so, how long would I need to be taking it for the results to be noticed?
I'm not sure if how it would help on astigmatism, because that tends to be the muscles in the eye. It might help maybe coordinate, make the muscles work better. That may do it. In my case, it's like my macular degeneration went away. That's kind of how I got introduced to C60, or I was doing it for a research project, working on the MOXIE fusion reactor. C60 is incredibly protected against radiation. And then a few months afterwards, I went to my eye doctor, and my macular degeneration had gotten. And actually, the retina in the back of the eye is part of the brain. And so that's why C60 has such a great, people's mood goes up, they got more energy, mental clarity increases, because C60 passes the blood-brain barrier. And believe me, your brain cells are even more mitochondria rich than your muscle cells. And so when your mitochondria return to full function in your brain, then you have just, mental clarity returns, or your retina can heal itself.
Hannah-Lore, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, says, hi, Ken. I received my package today. It looks as if it contains expensive perfume. Very attractive. No, there's no perfume in our product, but it does come in a pretty box. I'm looking forward to using it and would like to know what dosage I would give my 14-pound cat. That's a big cat, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a big cat.
I'm certain that this is possible. He does have asthma, and it concerns me since he has been on prednisone for 4 years.
I would probably get a little dropper, and just maybe half of it. Just start off with like half a dropper full, and what you can do is you can put it in the food. You can just, if it's dry food or even wet food, you can just put the C60 in the oil in the dry food or the wet food, and just mix it up, and it'll be absorbed right in. And the kitties, they have their health, they have their taste preferences, but generally they don't really have a problem with C60. They come to like it even. They'll come up and say they figure out that this stuff is really helping them. So you'll actually have the kitty will come and say, "Meow, give me more C60." So
I know I've mentioned to you my name before. It's Sierra Samuel. Well, someone wrote in with a question named Sierra Samuel. Is that for real? Because I'm just curious. But anyway, here's the question. I really thought it was myself. I'm like, wait, I don't remember writing this. Hi, I just had a question. When I take C60 avocado oil, is it okay to put it on toast and take it that way? Will it give me the full effect?
Oh yeah, it'll still be there. And that's perfectly fine. That your body will absorb that. It's just that, and that's part of the thing, if you've never taken an oil straight, but your body will still absorb it. It'll absorb the oil and and your toast, and you'll be fine.
Put a little avocado. Let's see. I like to make avocado toast in the morning, drizzle on some of the olive oil. Yep. So good.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Sorry, I'm kind of lost my space here. Is there a die-off effect when you take C60?
Well, that's probably the apoptosis of senescent cells.
Okay.
So basically your senescent cells, they're just at the end, they're just draining energy, because senescent cells go back to the fermentation process, which is 1/20th as efficient as the ATP oxygenation cycle. So yeah, they're just like big drains in your body. And once they go away, your health goes way up.
All right. Last question. Mark says, I have just bought C60 Purple Power from you. I saw a video where you seem to define my demographic, over 60 and overweight, that you suggest 1 tablespoon daily. Is there a best time to take it on, for example, on an empty stomach, upon sleep, upon wake, etc.?
Probably when you break your fast in the morning, break fast, or whenever you start eating, that's when to take it. And if you can do it on an empty stomach, that's the best. If not, just put it on some food in the morning. And you don't want to take it too late, like late in the evening, because it has a stimulatory effect, a little bit like coffee. So you might not sleep if you take it really late in the evening.
All right. Well, that's it for questions today. So thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and share it with your friends.
Yeah, and if you'd like to try C60 for yourself, visit c60purplepower.com and remember to use the coupon code the C60 Show for 15% off.
And if you're watching us on YouTube today, do subscribe and click the bell icon to receive notifications every time we upload something new.
Well, thank you all for your questions, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in another